Welcome to the Peak of Possibility podcast, brought to you by Peak Path Health. If you're enjoying the show, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Remember, if you or someone you care about is facing challenges, don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to support you on your journey to health and wellness. David, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Really excited to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here. Excited to chat.
I know. All the way from, where are you from?
Pennsylvania is where I go to school.
Pennsylvania. Yeah. What are you in school for?
Medical school.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's crazy. How long have you been in medical school?
This will be my second year.
Wow.
Yeah.
What made you decide to go into medicine?
Honestly, it was recovery. Yeah. Which is funny because I feel like it's like all about, so you go to like AA, you go to the rooms, you 12-step, and then you help other people through the 12 steps. And I feel like just throughout that process, I've found a love for like helping people, and then just wanted to be able to provide a higher level of care, and then also fell in love with science and chemistry and all those classes, and decided to go to med school because I knew I would have to take more of those classes anyway. So, but yeah, I really feel like it's the perfect thing for me, and I'm still very glad that I made the decision to do it, because at the time it was pretty risky to make the jump, but I made the jump, and yeah.
Make the jump from what? What were you doing before?
So I was in nursing school before, so I'd gotten sober in LA, and then I went back home to Pennsylvania, or to New Jersey originally, and went back to school for undergrad in Philly. And at that school, that was the same school I was at when I was getting loaded. So I was getting loaded there, like terrible student, not showing up to class, terrible GPA. Basically like took a leave, went to rehab, did like the rehab shuffle in Florida, went like Florida, NJ, and then finally got out to LA. And then like that's where it really stuck for me. I went through like a structured program out here, and then came back to Philly to go continue nursing school, and kind of just decided like maybe like 2 months in that I didn't want to be a nurse anymore. I wanted to try to get into medical school. And a big reason for that was because I was sober. And all of a sudden, like I was becoming like a good student. I'd never been a good student before. My SAT score is terrible. I've never been like super gifted, never had a super good GPA, but just the fact that I was sober, and it like just allowed me to understand who I was and understand like what I was actually passionate about, and allowed me to just be a responsible adult, responsible individual, allowed me to understand myself. I went from like not showing up to class, teachers hating me, teachers not knowing who I was, to like all of a sudden I'm sitting in the front of classes getting like a 4.0 GPA. So just throughout that process, I don't know, I just was like, I might be able to get into medical school, and I decided to take the risk. Yeah. Wow.
So in getting sober, how long have you been sober?
6 years, 7 years in April, God willing.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing. And just to like back up a little bit,
yeah.
How did it all begin for you?
It began, so I have a lot of addiction in my family. I would always see it as a little kid, and kind of like it steered me away from taking that first drink for a while. A lot of my friend group was taking the drink before I did. And that was partially because I'd seen what it had done to people that were very close to me. And I was like, I don't really want anything to do with that. But eventually there did come a time when I decided to take the drink, and immediately...
The drink. I like how you call it the drink, the dreaded drink.
But that's like what it was for me, though.
With a capital T.
Yeah, it was all caps, honestly.
Yeah.
It was like the drink, because it had just done something for me that nothing had ever done for me before. Chemically, I was like just so good. I didn't know, like it had it had solved problems for me that I didn't even know that I had.
What kind of problems did it solve?
Social problems, internal problems, not feeling good enough.
Right.
Just like so much friction that I had just been dealing with for so long that I just been dealing with it 24/7, that I like almost like forgot that it was there. And then like all that stuff just comes off of you, and you're just like, wow, this is great. And the second I did that, I was like, okay, like I'm doing this again for sure. And then progressed, started doing weed, started doing coke, and then ran out of money, started smoking crack.
Checks out. I ran out of money from doing coke, so I started smoking crack because that saves a lot of money, right?
Yeah. Which it really doesn't, because it's just
like... dude, it lasts like a quarter of the amount of time that cocaine lasts.
So true, yeah. But Yeah, I don't know. It was just, it was awful. Like, it spun out of control really quickly, and I was just in a terrible spot mentally.
And were you in college when everything started to really spin out?
Yeah, I was in college, and then I ended up leaving college. And when I left college, actually, like, because that was like the only thing that was semi keeping me stable, even though I wasn't even stable. And I left college finally, and I was like, all right. I was in a lot of self-pity. I was feeling bad for myself. I said, I tried this. Because at the time, it was like I was meeting with psychiatrists, trying to get on meds. I was trying to run. I was trying to work out.
When you were trying to get on meds, was it because you thought that something was like psychologically wrong with you?
Yeah.
Or was it like you were med seeking?
No, like psychologically wrong with me.
Yeah.
Like anxiety, depression stuff, which I came to find out that I really didn't struggle with any of that stuff. It was just manifestations of my spiritual malady.
Same.
Which is another thing we should get to, because I feel like that's like a big thing in recovery now. It's like these addicts and alcoholics come in, they have the symptoms and present as if they have depressive disorder, present as if they have anxiety, and then all of a sudden they're on a handful of meds every morning, which was my story.
Right.
I was the person taking I was on enough meds for a paranoid schizophrenic early on in my recovery, and it was really affecting my recovery.
Antipsychotics, sleep medication.
I was falling asleep at noon at the rehab center, and I was like, I guess this is just supposed to be how it is. And thank God I went to the long-term place that I went to, because, and I don't know if this is right or wrong, but it served me very well, because I would go to the med cabinet in the morning, and my house manager at the time was like, yo, David, like, when are you getting off this shit? And, he would just say that to me a lot. And I was like, it just challenged the idea. It was like, do I really need this? Do I really need this? And I didn't really need it, was the thing.
I have a question though. Do you think, and I think there are definitely people who do suffer
100%,
from those things.
Yes.
I'm just not one of them.
Yeah, same.
Sounds like you're not either.
Yeah.
But I thought I was. Do you think that that these medications could potentially serve a purpose for somebody who are presenting with these symptoms in early recovery to kind of like circumvent some of the symptoms of, coming off drugs and alcohol? Or do you think that it's a disservice for people to be on them?
So this is like, and it's ironic that this is coming up after you asked me like why medicine question, because a lot of this is like why I wanted to go into medicine was to kind of like fix these things. But I think that the medications serve a purpose. I think they're incredible drugs. And a lot of times I get backlash on my social media because I'm kind of like challenging a lot of these medicines, and people are like, I'm not saying that they don't help people. They help people. They're phenomenal drugs. The thing about recovery is that in my experience with recovery, with what I had to go through, with the level of pain that I went through, pain was a part of my process. A lot of those drugs, the idea behind the drug is we're going to make it easier for you.
Eliminate the pain.
I don't know if that's the best idea for the addict. I have a quote on my Instagram. It's, if you take the suffering out of recovery, you take the recovery out of recovery. I think for me, the pain is what did it for me.
Right.
Waking up with myself every morning and hating myself and figuring out a way through that is what did it for me. That's why I'm in medical school right now. If I didn't go through that pain, I would not be in medical school right now. If somebody gave me the pill to take that pain away, if I didn't have that house manager, or if I was seeing a doctor that was giving me Xanax, giving me Adderall to treat my anxiety, I would not be running ultramarathons right now. I would not be in medical school right now. I would not be sitting here on this podcast talking to you, because I would still be scared shitless. I was never the person to talk in front of a camera.
Right.
I was scared. I was scared of everything.
Right.
But I no longer had a crutch. So I had to figure it out. And I think that's like the big thing for me about recovery. And that's the thing. That's why I still run the ultra marathons, even though I'm in medical school, because I need to continue putting myself in the fire.
You can't just breeze past that. That's crazy to be in medical school and running ultra marathons. For those of you that don't know what an ultra marathon is, it's anything more than a marathon. A marathon is 26.2 miles, right? So an ultra could be 30 miles, 40 miles, 50 miles, 100 miles.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. And just becoming a mediocre runner, the amount of time it takes to be a mediocre runner, okay, to just even be able to do a half marathon is like insane. But to be an ultra marathon runner and to be in med school and to be active in your recovery and like giving back to your community all at the same time is like, you're a psychopath.
I appreciate that. But yeah, I think that's why like a lot of people relate to me, because I think that's like a big misconception about recovery, especially like in the recovery coach world on Instagram. I don't know if you guys are like into that, but it really like gets me going, because it's like these people are talking about getting sober as if it's like a cute hobby. And maybe it is for like the mom that's like having the occasional glass of Chardonnay every 2 weeks and wants to get sober. But in my experience, and in people who I DM on Instagram, people who come to me for help, even like, let's not even say addict, alcoholic. Like, I don't know. Are they? I don't know. But it's not easy for them. It's not a cute hobby for them.
No.
It's so difficult.
I mean, the thing that brings us to a point where we're reaching out to a complete stranger, whether it be on Instagram or whether it be at a 12-step meeting or whether it be a treatment center or an admissions person, whatever, that a person whose life is good and they just want to like casually get sober, they don't reach out and like expose this like painful experience they're having because like they just kind of casually want to get sober. Like sober curious people who are just like making a lifestyle change is very different than the person who comes completely broken and in shambles, hopeless, begging for a way out. Right.
And especially like sober young. I got sober when I was 20. Anybody who's getting sober at 20, whether or not you're an addict or alcoholic, it is incredibly difficult because that's the norm. The norm is you go out to the bar on Friday and Saturday night, even in med school. Even the med students are doing it.
Right.
It's everywhere.
Right.
So it's like, even if you don't have a problem, it's still incredibly hard. So then like the people promoting that message that it's just easy is like totally misleading because then you have people like trying to do it and it's just like, it's not easy. That's the first thing I tell people that reach out to me for help because I started like a semi-coaching program online. And the first thing I tell people is like, look, this is going to be incredibly difficult for you and I can't do any of the work.
Right.
I can't do any of the work. I can sit there with you and talk you through it and share my experience with you. I can stand in the trenches with you, but this is your fight.
Right.
I can't do it for you.
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them
Right.
drink.
Right. Yeah.
So you are 20 years old, you're in college, you drop out, you're starting to spiral, you're smoking rocks. And so what happens next? Like, do you pick up the phone? Does your family intervene on you? Like, what happens? Are your family supportive? Is mom and dad concerned? What's going on?
Yeah, everybody's concerned. I spiraled out of control like very quickly, which I'm grateful for in retrospect because I see a lot of people that like were the functioning drinker, the functioning drug addict. I know. And thank God it wasn't because it's like I just like tornadoed right away, needed to get help.
What did tornadoing look like when it got out of control?
I mean, I was kicked out of my house. I was homeless in Atlantic City for a little bit. I would hit like the reset button in detox rehab down in Florida. And then I'd leave the treatment center and like just like wander around Florida like a maniac. And then like just in and out. My parents are divorced. I was playing their divorce against them. They live in 2 separate houses. You know, I was like going to my dad's. My dad would kick me out. I'd go back to my mom's, stealing money from people. I mean, and then like these are all like the material things, but like the mental side of this was just like I hated myself. I hated who I was. I was miserable. I was not happy. I was trying to kill myself like every other week. It was just like not good. Like
legitimate suicide attempts?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I was in and out of psych wards was my big thing. I hated psych wards. Like detoxes were like heaven to me compared to a psych ward because psych wards were just
the worst.
And I would wake up in psych wards and I would like, I guess I would just be like up for a few days and I wouldn't really like remember exactly like where I was. And I would wake up in psych wards and I would just like, oh, it was just the worst feeling ever. Again. I still remember it till this day. And I still get like scared to tell people that I was at one point in my life suicidal because I have this like PTSD going on that because I say I'm suicidal or at one point I was suicidal, they're going to put me back in a psych ward involuntarily because that was a big part of my story, just going in these psych wards. And, you know,
do you think being put in those psych wards at the time when you were put there, like saved your life?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think it induced a lot of pain. Like I think it made me look at myself in the mirror and just like,
and pain is the touchstone of growth.
Pain is the touchstone of growth. Yeah. And you know, it's just like kept happening. So I was just like, this needs to stop happening. But I didn't really want to get sober. I think it was more, I think when you're dealing with somebody who's like partially reliant on their parents still, like I was 19, 20 years old, you know, I wasn't totally independent. I used to go to rehab and like meet the people that were totally independent. I used to get jealous of them because I'd be like, damn, like this guy gets high how he wants to get high. I just wanted to get high how I wanted to get high. I didn't want to be bothered. I wanted to have my own spot. I wanted to get high the way I wanted to get high. There was always like some sort of friction in my life. I felt like maybe I'm like glamorizing that too much. I'm sure there's still friction when you're at that level, but I remember going to rehab and thinking that. But I think it's different when you're dealing with somebody who's
what a dream to spend your own paycheck on a crack rock rather than your mom and dad.
Yeah,
a little bit more accessible, I guess, but it probably goes more quickly.
Right. So yeah, I didn't want to get clean, but I ended up in this rehab. There was a few young guys. They were ecstatic about AA. They were excited. They wanted to get a sponsor. They wanted to go to meetings. They wanted to work the steps.
They wanted to be sober.
Were
they your age?
They were my age, and they were the only kids my age there. So I was forced by necessity to hang out with these kids. It wasn't really like a choice.
Right.
And then it just wore off on me somehow, which is crazy because it's like
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is.
How it happens when somebody's like stoked.
Yes.
Like if like something inside you secretly kind of wants that, you find yourself being drawn to those people. And the same is true for the opposite. When you're in like the treatment center and you're like up to no good, and you're like planning and making cute little ideas of like how you're gonna get loaded or whatever, then you'll find those people too.
Right. Yeah. So I just became a little bit more open-minded. That's all I needed. Got on the phone with Fidlo, and the rest
Fiddler's our mutual good friend. I like to call him Fiddlesticks.
Yeah.
Though. Shout out Fiddlesticks.
The rest was history. It's funny because I was out here a few weeks ago, and it was the first time I was out here since like maybe like 5 years. And Fidlo was the one that picked me up at the airport.
Well, he was the one that you talked to on the phone, right?
Yeah. And
I want to know what that first phone call, when you like finally got to a place where like mom and dad weren't making you go to treatment. You weren't just trying to do a little spin dry, where like you were deciding to go to aftercare and commit to a long-term treatment setting.
Yeah.
Very structured one. All men, no phone, no
didn't
computers.
know that at the time.
Oh, you didn't know. Okay. But he like, what did the phone call sound like when you finally kind of got to that place?
It was more so like I felt like it was like the reason it was different was because like I was the one who was actually looking for the place to go, because I had that open-mindedness, and Fidlo really didn't even have to sell me on much because I had already looked at their website and I was trying to find a spot to go, and he was like, yo, I'm gonna like make sure he was like, I'm gonna take care of it like on the family end. I'm gonna make sure your family's cool with it. I'm gonna get all this stuff set up like on our end.
He's such a bro too.
He is such a bro.
Kind of like feels like some kind of like cool dude that you like want to be friends with.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, he is. He's great. And then so I came back like last month. I was here, and he picked me up from LAX again because I was staying at his place.
You had a trauma response?
Yeah, I was like, bro, I feel like we're going to treatment again.
That's so funny. Yeah. So you end up going to this treatment center, and it's super intense, right? Like behavior modification program.
Right.
Can you explain a little bit what behavior modification is for people who don't know?
Yeah, it's just like hardcore recovery boot camp, basically. There's a wake up time. You got to make your bed. All your stuff's got to be in line. You can't you need to do your laundry. You need to fold your clothes.
Like almost militant,
your dishes.
though, right?
Yeah, it's great, honestly. It sucks when you're in it, but it's great. It's funny too because I still do a lot of those things.
Same.
I literally I still do most of them, I would say. And even like today, like almost 7 years later, if I leave a dish on my coffee table in my apartment in Pennsylvania, the mind goes to that's 300 words.
Dude, I make my bed in hotels.
Yeah, same.
When
I'm making my bed at Fidlo's place.
Dude, when I go to a hotel and I'm traveling, I make my bed because it will drive me crazy. I remember the first time I traveled with my husband before we were married. I was like, just let me do my thing, okay? Otherwise, everything will be off kilter. It's like part of my morning routine and how I start my day. And I always tell him, I'm like, man, if I ever stop making the bed, or I start showing up late for a lot of things, or I'm spending long periods of time in the bathroom, things are not okay. I'm not okay.
Yeah.
Call 911. Call the treatment center. Something's not okay because I always make the bed.
Yeah. So I went over to the house to speak to the current clients there, and I was talking about stuff like this. I was like, 6 years later, still doing this. And they're all looking at me like I'm absolutely nuts, because when you're in it, you're just like, you're trying not to be there and you hate doing it. But then you don't really see the benefit of it till later. And journaling is the same. Journaling is almost like this. It's the same thing as writing words almost, so that's been huge for me as well.
It's been an outlet for you.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So you go to this treatment center. Do you turn 21 there?
Yeah.
What is that experience like, turning 21 in treatment, sober? And at this point, by the time you turn 21, are you committed to sobriety?
Yeah, I think I wasn't really thinking about it at that at the time. I was kind of just trying to do my time at the house and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. But when I turned 21, I was actually up a little bit north at some lake. One of my friends took me up there, so that's where I turned 21. But it was great, honestly. I didn't really have, my whole entire community was sober people. I really was disconnected from back home, the no phone thing. I wasn't even really in contact with people back home. I wasn't opening my Snapchat and seeing all the Snapchat stories on Friday and Saturday nights. So I was just in my own little world out here, in my own bubble. So it didn't even like, I wasn't even really like thinking about it too much.
Not allowed to talk to girls. Do you think there was a benefit in that too?
I think so, yeah. I don't even, to be honest with you, I wasn't even able to talk to girls. I was so like anxious and depressed and like
No
it was.
self-worth.
What was that?
No self-worth.
No, it was harder for me. Like the first like year or so of sobriety was harder for me than like active addiction, I would say, because I had so much turmoil in my head. I didn't know who I was. That's why like the running came into play. That's why.
When did the running become like a passion of yours?
So it's like, there's a couple answers to this.
Were you running with Strides?
Yeah, I was running with Strides.
Okay.
Yeah, I love
Shameless
Strides.
plug, Strides in Recovery,
Yes.
amazing nonprofit that like brings like the passion of running and coaching to like people in early recovery. It doesn't cost anything.
No.
It's a true nonprofit. Like volunteers dedicate their time. That's how I started running too.
Yeah,
I had
Leslie
never
is great.
ran in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and they helped me like fundraise for one of my races too. And I always send them my shoes too. Like they'll take your old shoes. So if you ever have old shoes, just send them. But I think like two reasons. So I was going back to college when I was over a year sober, and I was trying to stay sober at this point because I'm leaving LA, and everybody at the house I'm at is like, bro, you probably shouldn't go back to college. Like you're only a year sober, understandably. But I kind of knew what I wanted to do. I knew I was going to sleep at the place I was at, and I was dreaming of like just being on a college campus, going in a library, studying for a couple hours. Like it was just like this idea in my head, and I was like, I need to do that. I want to do that. I'm sober, and I didn't get sober to play it safe. I got sober to take risks, so I knew I was going to do that. So I went out back to this college, and I'm like, well, I need to be around people who aren't drinking. Cross country team,
Right.
because I know they're
Serious runners are not big drinkers, even if they're not in recovery. But there's a lot of sober people in recovery that also like get into running.
For sure, yeah. And they're some of like the best people. I met the best people. I had the best coach. I was vulnerable with the team about my situation. They all respected my situation, and they just weren't big drinkers. Like they would rather be like doing something of like actual. I don't know, like they would just rather be doing other things. They were just not into it. And it was perfect for me. And, you know, instead I ended up in the library. That's probably a big reason why I ended up deciding to go to medical school too, because I was just spending so much extra time studying. People don't realize how much extra time you get when you're sober. You literally get the whole weekend.
Right.
And it's not even that you're getting more time. It's like other people are spending their weekends doing self-defeating things. So they're actually like, they're losing time and you're gaining time. And so that's an exponential relationship over time. That's 48 hours. You're never going to beat the sober person. You're never going to beat the sober person. That's why I was able to get into medical school with the shitty ass GPA. That's why I was able to get into medical school with the 800 SAT, because I just stacked weekends. My weekends compounded over time. I was on the cross country team, and I was just going to the library with the cross country kids and just studying at the library. And then to answer the rest of your question too, it was like, at that time, it was the perfect time because at that time I began to realize what pain did for me. I began looking back. I was out of LA. I was out of the house. I began looking back on my experience at the house I was at, and I finally started getting like some relief back from the turmoil I was going through, and I realized that the pain that I was going through was for a reason. It wasn't a waste. I needed to go through everything that I felt I needed to feel. And I started to understand, I started to correlate my relief to the amount of pain that I was feeling. So then I started having this different relationship with pain, because now instead of looking at pain as this terrible thing, I'm looking at pain as this prerequisite for growth.
And like an opportunity.
It's the opportunity of a lifetime. So once I figured that out, and then I had the running right there, I was like, I need to double down on the running, because the running is it's just pain.
It's pain, and it's similar to like getting sober, right? I believe that anybody can get sober if they have the willingness, the capacity to be honest, and if they're willing to do the work. It's not like an overnight experience, but like there's work and there's time and there's energy and there's massive shifts and like lifestyle changes and perspective changes, and like everything needs to change, and it takes time, and you have to stay like consistent and diligent, just like running, right? Like you start at the very beginning and you're a little shaky and 2 miles feels like hell, right? And then as you are consistent, you know, you're running every day or 3 or 4 or 5 days a week, before you know it, and even just like 2, 3, 4 weeks, like you're like, oh wow, I just ran 6 miles and like I feel great. Do you know what I mean? And then it gets to a point where it becomes like a daily part of your practice, just like recovery and sobriety, like making your bed. And like before you know it, you're achieving things that you didn't think were possible. Like recovery is very much like that, and running physically is very much like that.
100%. Running has done so much for me. over my sobriety. It's insane. And I also think it's so correlational to recovery. Like the journey of completing an ultra marathon, the journey of completing a marathon is so beautifully similar to the journey in recovery.
Because once you finish a race too, like, what happens next? You finish the race and then you're just done. Like Leslie, actually, from Stride, she said, nobody does 2 marathons. You do one and you never do one again, or you do like 10 or 20 or 100, right? And it's so true. Yeah. Like, and the only way somebody only does one is if they get injured or if they don't train, because a marathon is the worst thing in the entire world if you're not physically prepared to do it. But it's also the most amazing, like, rewarding experience you can have if you've trained and been diligent and worked hard.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's just like rewires your reward circuitry too. Like you associate like effort to enjoyment. So like that's been like a huge, I always tell people, like the first thing I tell people too is like you should probably, if you're not working out, you should probably work out because you're just getting those natural endorphins going off in your head. Right. And it's just rewiring. Like a lot of these people that are getting high, it's like they're just in this like instantly gratifying world. When you get sober, when you're in long-term recovery, like we're no longer in the instantly gratifying world. We're in delayed gratification. This is all delayed gratification. My daily routine is delayed gratification. I get no instant gratification ever. It's meditating, it's journaling, it's prayer. Prayer is a huge thing. And people think of prayer like, oh, I'm going to pray and then, you know, I'm going to be good. Like, no, that's not how prayer works. It's the same as running. It doesn't work that way, you know, and running is another thing. You know, it's all delayed gratification. This is a long game. This is like 5-10 years out. I have a hard, like, I had a hard time, like, seeing this when I was first getting sober, but, like, I can't look at sobriety like, oh, in 3 months from now, I'm going to feel this way. In 6 months from now, I'm going to feel this way, because sobriety iterates. Right. This is a long game. You have to look at it 5 years out from now, 10 years out from now, 15, 20. Like, this is like a decade-long thing.
Do you think that could be, like, for the person who's, you know, trying to get sober, just newly sober, do you think that idea of thinking 5, 10, 15 years out can be, like, daunting or overwhelming?
I think so.
Because you also hear a lot, keep it in the day.
Yeah,
right?
one day at a time.
Present in the moment.
I think it's important to also keep it one day at a time. I think it's like when that mental, like for me, it was like when the mental switch happened of like, okay, like I actually want to stay sober now. And then the thing is like, well, what do I want to do with my life? And it's like, it was almost like a relieving thought for me, because it was like, I have 20 years to just let sobriety iterate in my life. That's so much time. I can do so much time, you know, and then like going back to the weekends, how many weekends are in 20 years? I don't know. That's a lot of time to just like build what I want to build in the world. Like the Instagram, like med school, like running ultras. It's just like, for me, it kind of became like a really relieving thought. But I agree with you. I think that when I was if I was in early recovery and somebody was telling me to think that way, it might not have landed well. So I think that there is a balance for it.
Right. Do you think what was your first ultra? How long?
50 miles.
So, did you run marathons before that?
No.
You did an ultra off the rip.
Yeah, because I was on the cross country team and I really liked trail running, was why I kind of got into it. I was a big trail runner, and ultras are a lot of trail running. Did this first ultra. It was in upstate New York in Ithaca. So beautiful.
I used to have a friend named Annika from Ithaca.
Yeah, beautiful area.
It rhymes, so I always think that when people say Ithaca.
Yeah. Yeah, I was hooked right when I did that. So, and then like it's just like, it's also like the personality of the addict. Like it's just, you know, how far can I take it? So it went from 50 to 100K to 100 mile. Just did a 24-hour over the summer.
Which one was that?
It was this run in like Jersey, like Cooperstown River. I don't know. It was just like this 3-mile loop, and you just ran it for 24 hours. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't even do a treadmill because it's too repetitive. I need like a change in scenery.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I can't believe that. 24 hours straight?
24 straight.
Or was it like a relay?
No, it was just straight. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So what are you going to med school? Like, what kind of doctor do you want to be?
So I really want to do surgery right now. Yeah.
What kind of surgery?
Neurosurgery.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So what is the timeline? You're 2 years into med school, right?
Yes.
You did your bachelor's, which was your 4 years in undergrad, 2 years into med school. So you have what, 6 years left of school?
Yes. So I have, well, it depends. So you go to undergrad, you do 4 years of undergrad, which I did. and then you apply into medical school. You take something called your MCAT, which is like this really long, like 8-hour test, which was a pain in the ass for me to take. You have to draft up this like long essays to like get into medical school. It's very competitive to get into medical school. And the other crazy thing about this too is like we were talking about, big reason I want to go to med school is because recovery, my journey in Alcoholics Anonymous, helping other people. And because of the stigma, I wasn't even able to talk about any of that on my application. Mm-hmm. Luckily, I had other things I could talk about, like the running, and other cards I could play to make myself look like an attractive applicant. Ended up getting in, and then you do 4 years of medical school. I'm at year 2 right now, and then you go into something after that called residency, which is like your training, and you could just work a ton of hours. You don't get paid well. It's
emergency room. Yeah.
It's kind of a grind, yeah. And for surgical specialties, it can be anywhere from 5 to 7 years. Neurosurgery is typically 7 years. Mm-hmm. And then after that 7th year, you have the option to also do a fellowship. So let's say I wanted to do like pediatric neurosurgery. I only wanted to do kids. Then I would do like a 1 to 2 year fellowship after that, before I was actually out of my training period and considered like an actual attending physician surgeon.
Why did you choose neurosurgery? And do you think that you have some kind of like adrenaline junkie type transition that took place after going from being, an addict, alcoholic, getting sober, and now it's like translating to all these other areas?
Yeah. So multiple reasons I chose neurosurgery. So I was kind of like hung up, and I'm still like deciding, like I'm not sure, but I wanted to do addiction medicine for obvious reasons, but then I started thinking like I have a lot of that in my life already. All my friends are sober. I go to AA, I do the Instagram, the sober coaching stuff. If I went into addiction medicine, it might be too much for me. And I love like working with my hands, and I also love the brain, and I love the anatomy of the brain. And also I love the intensity of neurosurgery. I consider neurosurgery the ultra marathon of medicine. Mm-hmm. You have surgeons doing 20-hour surgeries, like not leaving the operating room to pee, working 100-hour weeks. I think that my experience in ultra could correlate well into that. And then I also think that it's a privilege. I think it's a privilege to help patients that are sick with something in their head. Mm-hmm. If something's in your head, it's like, it's no joke, and I think that it's an honor to have the skill set and to be the person to take care of those patients that are very, very ill and very, very worried. Yeah.
Wow. And so, what's next for you? Like as you're going through med school, like what is your goal in the next 1 to 2 years?
My goal is definitely just finding balance between the training, the medical school, the running, the research with school, just all the different responsibilities, finding balance with that. Also just like taking time to just enjoy what I'm learning right now. Like I feel like we get hit with so much content. Like we were in the anatomy lab literally the other week before I came out here, and we're like in our neuroanatomy block right now. So I literally like held the human brain of a cadaver like in my hand, and I was just like looking at it and like
How much does it weigh?
It's like good 5 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm just like looking at it, and again, like you probably have these full circle moments in recovery. It's just like, damn, like 7 years ago, like
you were smoking crack.
I was smoking crack. Like
now you're holding the human brain.
Now I'm here, and then I'm also looking at it, and I'm like, like I wonder, like since like I'm an addict, alcoholic, I wonder if mine looks a little different than this.
Right.
But regardless, like I just think it's like so cool, and I think that the brain is like one of the last like unknown frontiers of the world. We really like are still in the stone age with it, like mental health medications, stuff like that, even surgeries and different techniques and areas of the brain. Like we know what like generally what they do, but we don't really know. If somebody breaks their bone like in their arm, you can get an x-ray and you can show that person like, look, your bone is broken. Like we know this for sure. If somebody's complaining that they're anxious or depressed, you can't just like get a blood test and measure the amount of dopamine and serotonin that's firing in a very specific part of their brain and be like, look, these are your levels and these are the normal levels, so therefore we're going to put you on this medication. And then after we put you on the medication, we're going to recheck your levels so that we're sure that they went back up and this is solving the problem. We don't have that yet because we're in the stone age. And that excites me because there's a lot to figure out there. There's a lot of potential innovation. There's a lot of different things that you can do. A part of neurosurgery right now that's up and coming is called functional neurosurgery, where they're implanting a probe deep into the brain. Right now it's being used for Parkinson's disease. So those patients have a lot of tremors. They shake a lot. It's a very sad illness and progressive illness. And what that surgery does, it's amazing, because they put in this electrode and they turn it on. The second they turn it on, the patient is just like good. And it doesn't cure Parkinson's, but it prolongs the symptoms from getting really bad, because it kind of gives like those brain cells that are deep in the brain a little bit more life, so that patient can go enjoy, what they have left of their life with their family and like doing what they love, and not be like, all stiff and like shaking from their illness. So, there's also like, would that work for OCD? Would that work for addiction? Would that work? Not saying that addiction and alcoholism is a primarily like neurochemical problem. I think we both know that this is a spiritual malady, so I'm not sure that would fix it. But I think that giving patients options is the biggest thing.
We don't know what it is. It's spiritual, neuro, biological. Like, is it our DNA? Everybody has an opinion on it, but like, who actually knows?
Yeah, that's a very, very good point.
Yeah. We don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Do you think you want to get into research at some point?
Yeah, 100%. I do a lot of research right now. I do, like, my research is like addiction and neurosurgery. So that's primarily what I do. I wish I had more time to do more research. I just don't. But yeah, I do a lot of cool research. I do research on mice, and then I do a bunch of just like data crunching, more boring stuff, but meaningful stuff and interesting in ways. And then there's a big like addiction program at the school I go to. So that's been awesome, because I get to, do stuff in that realm too. And obviously like that matters to me. So yeah.
Okay. So do you have anything that you'd want to share for the 20-year-old who is, in the grips of it, who can't see the end, who's new in their recovery journey or not even sober yet?
Yeah, I think that understanding that this is an experiential process and not an academic process is huge. I don't think this is something that you can drill into somebody's head like you can a mathematical equation. There was nothing anybody could have told me back in the day that would have fixed all my problems, because the thing is, like, the problems are the solution. You need to walk through the pain. You need to keep going. You need to get to the other side. And until you get to the point where you reflect and look back on your journey and be like, okay, like I was supposed to go through that. I needed to go through that to get here. It's impossible to explain to somebody. It's entirely experiential
100%.
And it's not academic. And that's why, like, sometimes like with the, even with the podcast, with the big books, with stuff like that, it's like kind of misleading, because it makes it seem like it's an academic process. This is not academic. It's everybody has their own experience, and you need to just continue to walk through. And I'm a big believer in God. So it's like, I believe that, God puts exactly what you need in front of you at that time, and you need to be open-minded, and you need to learn from it. And a lot of the times it sucks, but pain is like a powerful emotion. If God just made me feel good that first year of sobriety, I wouldn't have paid it any mind. I wouldn't have been paying attention to God. I would have just been like, yeah, like I feel good, like this is great. But he made me feel pain. And then I was like, I'm listening. Like, you got me now. You have my attention. Like, now I need to rely on you. And that's a big thing with me today. It's like, I don't want to sidetrack, but it's like life gets good, and then it's like you kind of forget sometimes.
You forget about the pain, for sure.
You forget about
where you came from. You forget how bad it really was. And also all that has been given to us as sober people in recovery as a result of this like beautiful, spiritual experience and process we get to go through.
100%. So I would tell the person, find people that have gone through it, go to AA, talk to the people that have 10, 15, 20 years,
or any, I think, recovery support group.
True. Any recovery support group.
What works for one, I feel like, for me, I don't think that there's a monopoly on how to recover. I think there's different paths, like, to get to the same goal.
100%.
Do you know what I mean?
I agree. It's options, yeah. And I would also say, like, faith is huge for me. So I'm going to say faith. And faith is something that I didn't come across till like year 2, year 3 of sobriety. I wish I came across it earlier. And if I did come across it earlier, I think I would have had a slightly different experience. But faith, I would encourage people to dive into that, explore that.
Well, David, you are a phenomenal young man.
Thank
You've had a lot of experience. You live a pretty wild life in sobriety, honestly. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Peak of Possibility podcast, sponsored by Peak Path Health. If you enjoyed the show, please like, comment, and subscribe, and share it with your friends. And if you or somebody you know is struggling, please call us, message us, DM us, email us, and let us know how we can help.